Welcome to the LynnCAM TV Show, a program which focuses on organizations, municipalities, nonprofits, and issues affecting the city of Lynn. Here with me today to discuss Plummer Foster Care, we have James Lister, Executive Director, Dan Frank, foster parent himself, and Alex, a foster care youth. Guys, thanks for being here today. We're here today to talk about Plummer Foster Care. Some of the important subjects that we're going to be talking about are recruiting foster parents, the permanency work program, and we'll also get a little bit of an account of what it's like to be a foster parent from Dan and what it's like to be a member of a foster care home from Alex. Before we get too much into that, I want to learn a little bit about you guys and your involvement with this organization. James, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is James Lister. I'm the Executive Director of the Plummer Home for Boys, and I'll be there in April for 10 years, and I have 15 years in the child welfare experience in child welfare.
Wow, 10 years total in this, huh? I mean, you must have seen a lot of litigation pass. I mean, that's a big part of, foster parenting, or just being part of a foster care. I know the state's involved a lot. So you must know your ins and outs. This will be great. I think we're going to have a good program. Now, Dan, you've been a foster parent for how long?
I've been a foster parent for 32 years, Sean.
Wow. Tell us about your experience and your involvement really with Plummer.
Well, I joined Plummer about 2 years ago. Foster care is a new component to the Plummer home. They've, of course, done storied work for the last 150 plus years with adolescents, and foster care is a great addition because it establishes permanent connections between youth and caregivers for their entire life. And that's always a problem because in the state of Massachusetts, support for foster care kind of evaporates at a certain age, whether it be 18 or 22, different from case to case, but the kids still need lifelong connections to adults, and that's what foster care is all about.
Okay. Now, Alex, you're a foster care youth, all right? You came up with that term a little earlier. I like it. It speaks to your professionalism. Let's talk about you and your involvement.
Well, I've been in the foster care system since I was really young. I've been through a lot of foster homes when I was younger, and I've been at Plummer Home for the past about 7 years. And it's been up and down. I mean, I kind of learned a lot. I don't know. It's kind of like, it's very good, but then bad, and I don't know, I'd like to change a couple of things if I could, like maybe make it a little bit better.
Now, you're young right now. How old are you?
I'm 20.
So you're 20 now. You still got a lot going on. There's not too much separating us, but really just the work life. Once you get into that, have you ever considered working with Plummer Foster Care or working within the foster care industry, if you will?
Well, honestly, I would actually really like that because I feel like I could have a lot of input because I could see both sides of this kind of the scenario. Because I could see like how they see it because I'm like an adult, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I've been through the system, so I feel like I have a lot of input that doesn't really always get mentioned. You see what I'm saying? Because it's different when it comes from a person that's actually lived it. Like I've been in foster care my whole life, you know what I mean? It's like I grew up in it, yeah.
Not only is it important for you to do that and be able to add your input and create a better atmosphere for these new youths, I'd say it's almost your responsibility too.
Yeah.
You've been in this system since 5 is what you said before the show, right? I mean, if anybody knows the ins and outs, it's going to be you. And I mean, when it comes to it, like Dan had said, it comes down to connections with an adult. And sooner rather than later, you're going to be an adult. All right, and you can then provide those connections with these kids. I think you've got a big, bright future ahead of you, and I think that this is all going to really work out well for you. Let's talk a little bit about the organization, Plummer Foster Care. For our viewership at home who doesn't know about it, James, let's take it from square one.
Sure. Plummer Home is most widely known for our group homes in Salem. So we have a group home for up to 12 boys in Salem, and we have supported apartments for kids in the foster care system in addition to the group home. What's new for us is entering into this foster care business. So now, in addition to operating a group home for kids in foster care, we now recruit and train foster families so that foster children can live with them. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And it's a great addition to our continuum of programs because historically we've only been able to work with kids in a group home setting. And now we can work with them in group home settings as well as foster homes.
So foster homes, it's new to Plummer. What sparked this initiative?
Well, we see almost 1,000 kids every year age out of the foster care system without families. And we can help them, and we can help more of them by having our own foster care program. So we can recruit families that are going to work with us to make sure our kids have, like Dan said, lifelong connections to family forever.
All right. Now, Dan, as a foster parent, there are probably people out there watching right now who have considered it in the past, but have never really just pursued it. What would you say to some people out there who are considering being a foster parent?
Well, Sean, first I'd like to take a moment and define what we mean by foster care. Foster care. I spoke about that in the introduction, but foster care means different things to different people. And Plummer Foster Care is all about long-term commitments. There's also a very big need for short-term foster care for placements, but that's not what we're talking about today. So I think you need two things. If you like kids, like to be around kids, and you feel you can bring a level of commitment, a very high level of commitment, then you're a good candidate to become a foster care parent. And the way to do that is just get on the web, look at the website, call us up. And I think the first step is just to talk a little bit with other foster parents, find out what they think about it, what they're doing, what the difficulties are, what the rewards are. If you've raised your own children, you probably know a lot of the rewards and difficulties already.
So there are pros and cons to both.
Being a foster parent is 90% like being a regular parent, and only the 10% is you have to deal with.
So it's interesting to learn. I mean, I had always assumed that any foster home, the goal of it was always permanent, but that's not the case. Sometimes foster parenting is on a short term, but what you guys are trying to achieve is a long-term goal here. You want long-term connections between adults and youths. Alex, tell us about that. Do you think that there's going to be more value in permanency or just short-term living?
Well, I think there's a lot of value in it because I grew up as a young kid in the foster care, and I feel like I was just thrown around from place to place. You know what I mean? It was like they were always looking at like, okay, well, we just need to place him. Like, I felt like I'm not really a person. You know what I mean? And they're just looking for the next placement, not really caring about it. Like, sometimes I was in places that they didn't even speak like my language.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
You know, it is interesting. But as a kid, I mean, it's got to be somewhat scary. It's got to be a pain in the butt, too.
Well, it's scary from both sides.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because
it's like, you know, I would assume that anybody who got into foster parenting, it's for the cause alone. But today's day and age, I'm sure that there's somewhat of a benefit. I mean, are there any people who are taking advantage of this at all? I mean, I'm not saying Plummer, but just in general, are there any stories out there that exist like that?
I mean, I think we occasionally hear a horror story or a situation that didn't go well, but by and large, I think anybody who does foster care does it for the right reason. I think for the most part that's a myth. I mean, we see occasionally stories that make the headline in the Globe or Herald or whatever it may be, but by and large, anyone that does foster care is really committed to helping kids.
Okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your one of your more current continuous improvements, recruiting foster parents. Specifically, you guys are looking within the great city of Lynn.
That's right.
And it's important to recognize, you guys are in Salem, all right? But you need foster parents throughout the North Shore. Lynn's been the next city that you've chosen. Why Lynn? What are you working to do? What have you done so far? What are you hoping to achieve?
We're just starting, and this is real helpful in that effort. But we realize how big Lynn is and how many families are in Lynn and how diverse Lynn is. And we can partner very closely with the Department of Children and Families, DCF, in the Lynn office. And it's close to our corporate headquarters, which is in Salem. So it's a natural kind of growth for us to reach out to the Lynn community to recruit foster families.
Okay. Now, how long have you guys been working on it?
We're still, just months. Really, we've had the foster care program for a little over a year, and we've started to target Lynn in the past few months. So we've worked a little bit with the local newspaper and trying to get flyers out and the word out throughout the city.
So in the past few months, have you had any success?
We've had some people make inquiries on the phone.
Well, that's a success.
And that's very much so.
Yeah. We had talked before the program, and you had mentioned that there are a lot of people considering being foster parents, but we don't know about them because they don't know where to reach out to. And you said that, you don't have to sign anything. You don't need to come home with a kid. Call us so we can explain it to you. When people call, what type of questions do they ask?
Well, they'll ask, do I need to be married? Do we need to have 2 incomes? How many bedrooms do you need? There's a lot of real practical things that we can answer and sort out right on the phone.
Right.
So highly encourage, if you're interested, just call.
Now, do you have to be married?
You do not have to be married.
Do you have to have 2 incomes?
You do not have to have 2 incomes. You have to have appropriate space
Right.
for the number of kids that you're working with. But those are the types of questions we get very often.
All right. Now, Dan, you had mentioned that you've been a foster parent for 32 years.
That's correct,
I mean,
Sean.
that's longer than I've been alive, and I haven't even been able to take care of myself for 28 years. So I could just imagine what it's like. You must have some incredible stories and memories. I mean, like, you've been like a father to these people. I mean, that's what you are,
Absolutely.
regardless of what it is. You know, for a guy who I grew up with my uncle. He raised me. He's my uncle, but he was my father. You know, he taught me. He whacked me around when I needed it, and you know, he told me right from wrong. Tell us about your experience just as a foster parent in general.
Well, sure. I guess for me, foster care has always been about long-term commitments. And the 4 boys that I've raised, I still have connections with them. And the oldest one is now 42 years old. So that tells you something about the longevity of my relationship with the kids. Foster parenting is a little bit different than being a parent. Anyone who's been a parent knows about the rewards and the challenges. I think the difference for me is that you don't have that incredible connection to a foster child when they come into your home. And that's the focus for the first couple of years. It's just building that connection, because without that connection, you have no traction whatsoever. For me, the challenge of being a foster parent is establishing the kind of rapport that you would have with your biological children so that you can guide them. And for me, the thing that worked best was persuasion. The constant dialogue with your child. And of course, all parents should be doing that, but often we rely upon our authority as a parent. And I think the big difference for foster parent, you don't start with that level of authority.
Right.
So you have to build it, you have to earn it.
Right.
And you actually do that with your biological children. The difference is you maybe had 10, 12, 13 years to do so before they hit adolescence and present the challenges that adolescents can present.
Wow. When I was 10 years old, my uncle brought me in, and I'll never forget. It was really awkward because, like, you know, I knew him from like Christmas parties and stuff like that. And I'm sure, Alex, you can speak to this too. But it was awkward. It was like, hey, what's up? All right, I live with this guy now, and it's like he's gonna make my food and make sure I go to school, and it's like, it's all very new. It's got to be overwhelming.
Yeah, you feel unwelcomed almost. It's kind of
Yeah,
weird.
I mean,
Yeah.
No, and you know, that's the sense that you get. You feel almost like an intruder. You are a guest at the beginning. So we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the permanency program. We're here right now with Plummer Foster Care, James Lister, Dan Frank, and Alex. We're going to be back. Stay tuned.
Suffering of millions of breeding dogs in puppy mills who supply puppies to pet stores. You can help too by not adding to the demand for pet store puppies. When searching for your next best friend, do what I did. Adopt. Don't shop. Let a shelter dog like Johnny steal your heart.
There are heroes among us. They don't fly or bend steel or ride off into the sunset. They simply volunteer to look after someone else's health by providing comfort, lending a hand, or simply keeping us on track. Everyone's health needs a hero. Who will you look out for?
Find out how you can participate in improving our health. Visit iparticipate.org.
Welcome back to the LynnCAM TV Show, a program which focuses on organizations, municipalities, nonprofits, and events within the city of Lynn. Here with me today, we have James Lister, Executive Director, Dan Frank, a foster parent himself, and Alex, a foster care youth. We're here discussing Plummer. Plummer is an organization right now which is dabbling into foster care. Let's talk about Plummer briefly for our viewership that might just be joining us. James, you can take this one.
Sure. Until a few years ago, Plummer Home operated just group homes in Salem, and different types of group homes for younger kids starting at age 13 and then all the way up to kids age 22. So we have a group home, then we have supported apartments, independent living programs, so on and so forth. Recently, we added a foster care program, which was a natural fit to the work we do. So we can work with kids either in a group home setting or in a foster care setting.
Now, Dan, you've been a parent, foster parent for 32 years. We were talking during the break that there is a process to go through, which you're going to get into a little bit more. But right now, some of the continuous improvements that the Plummer Home is working on, recruiting foster parents in Lynn. If you're a Lynn resident and you consider being a foster parent, the first step is to call and get the details. That's what these guys need. They need you to give them a buzz so they can tell you everything that you need to know. You're going to have questions. You're going to have questions like, should I be married? Should I have 2 incomes? What type of space am I going to require? And these guys can help you with that. But one thing that I do want to get to is your permanency work. What is this program? What does it mean? This sounds very new to me.
Permanency work is simply making sure all kids have families. And I think historically the foster care system with older kids tends to focus more on preparing them to live on their own, based on the assumption that there aren't families available for them, or there have been efforts made in the past to get them back to family. And at Plummer, we think of that, our work and our work with kids differently. That not only do we help prepare kids to live on their own, supporting them with things like education, vocational opportunities, so on and so forth, but make sure that when they age out of the foster care system or when they leave the foster care system, that they do it to a family or a network of adults that are going to be there for them forever. Okay. So permanency work is kind of a child welfare term, but it essentially means finding forever families for children in foster care.
No, I mean, it's going to be something that you got to be looking forward to too, Alex, is becoming an adult, being on your own, living your own lifestyle. Tell us about that. You're going through a transition. You're 20 years old right now.
20 years old, and I just couldn't imagine like trying to go into the world with no one. Like, how could someone go like start off with really no one that can relate to them, or no one that could even like really understand them? Like, everyone kind of needs someone to talk to. I mean, a therapist is cool and all, but like, I mean, that's just an hour a week or whatever, you know what I mean? Like kids need like just someone they can relate to and talk to them. Like, what if like they broke down in their car and who are they gonna call? Like, some of these kids really have no one. Like, and that's, I think, a problem.
So we had mentioned at the beginning of the program, you're 20 years old, you're going to be entering your adulthood right now. The permanency program is something that I'm sure you're looking forward to. When and if you come back to Plummer and you try to initiate maybe some improvements that you think would benefit students, I mean, are there any that come off the top of your head? What improvements do you think need to happen?
Well, honestly, I think they should, I don't know, like, relationships is a big thing, I feel like. And I feel like that permanency thing really like kind of nails it in a way, but I feel like they need more of the kids' insight rather than just like, I mean, everyone can kind of assume how a kid feels, and I mean, unless you really go through it, you don't know how it really is. And that's what the permanency thing I think is really about, you know what I mean? Well, like, how do we help the kid for him and not for like what we think he needs help with? You know what I'm saying? And like, there's more to it than just kind of like, okay, well, he's here, that's it, let's pay the whatever bills or like get him a place, because I mean, kids age out, and what are they really gonna have after that?
So you
like,
think
what's after that exactly?
Right. So you think the permanency program is a step in the right direction. Plummer's taking the right precautions in order to make ready, willing, and able citizens. I think that I mean, that's unbelievable. To consider that, really, I mean, like, that's good. That's one of the most selfless things that you can do, because at the time, I mean, this is your job, James, right? I mean, like, you go into work every single day. You have a due diligence. You have responsibilities. You got your own family at home and your own worries and your own struggles. But I'm sure that this is something that you put extra time in, extra effort, and it's because you maintain relationships with these kids. Dan, you had mentioned before that there's a process into becoming a foster parent. It's not like I can just walk down a Plummer and I can go home and I have a new son or a new daughter. You need to meet these kids, develop a rapport. Tell us about the process.
Well, I've been in this game for 32 years, and it's evolved quite a bit. And the current process is much better than it was 30 years ago when they just dropped a kid off and said, here's your new kid. And that is traumatic because it's awkward, it's stressful for both parties, and it's a lousy way to begin a relationship. Yeah. So now this relationship development, while the boy is still living perhaps at Plummer Home or wherever he might be living, there's a gradual process where you visit a little bit, day visits, then overnights, and then maybe school vacations, and it might take 3 months before the child moves into their home. So at the point where the child actually becomes part of your family, you know each other. So there's no awkwardness. So it really minimizes that stressful starting period.
Yeah, and you get an idea of, you know, what his interests are, what your interests are.
And you know that well in advance. Typically what Plummer has both the child and the prospective parent is prepare a little 3 or 4 page kind of this is me, kind of a picture book about these are the things I like to do. And that helps with the matching too, because Plummer doesn't just assign random parents to random kids.
Right.
They kind of make sure there is a compatibility.
Right.
So it is a very slow and not a painful process at all.
Yeah, it speaks to the biology of it all. It sounds like in the beginning it was just a bureaucratic thing. It was
Yeah,
like,
right.
all right, you and you go that way. But now what you're doing is you're speaking to the needs of these kids.
Well, the difference is now we're focusing on forming lifelong commitments, and you don't form those kind of commitments by just dumping a kid in a home.
Yeah.
So you want some level of base compatibility, and then you want to build it from there and take time, because it doesn't happen in a day, a week, or a month. Relationships take years to develop.
Yeah. James, something to add? It looked like you had something.
No, I really admire Dan and his work, and I admire the foster care staff that spend so much time, effort, and energy trying to make sure we have the right foster families for the right kids and the amount of support they provide to them. It's a really good team.
Now, Alex, you're a foster care youth right now. Would you ever consider being a foster parent yourself?
I mean, yeah, I would. I mean, if it'd have to be like a good time for me to do it though. But I just have something to like really add. You guys mad? Like, it's not necessarily about like, okay, like this permanency thing that we're talking about. Like, yeah, like it's all good if like we get foster parents and everything like that, but I think it's more than that. Like, I feel like just having someone that can relate to a kid, even like a mentor or something that still matters. Like, you're still making a difference in a kid's life. Like, it doesn't always have to be a foster parent. So if people want to call, and you could even do that too, because it's about relationships. I mean, yeah, foster parent would be the best case scenario, or even like a permanent home. But sometimes you could just make a difference in a kid's life just by like visiting them every week or like a month, and then you never know, you might actually like have fun and like the kid.
Now, are there opportunities like that available at Plummer? I mean, can people come down and volunteer and just be a mentor, be a pal?
Yeah, that's a great point that Alex made, and we are very much focused on recruiting foster families for our kids. But at the same time, we've really benefited from people volunteering and doing some mentor work with our kids. So Alex has a very special relationship with someone who's become a mentor for him for a long time, and that relationship is still really strong today. So yeah, there's lots of ways to help. Being a foster parent is something that's really helpful and something that can make a big difference in the lives of our kids. But in addition to that, the volunteers at Plummer Home, in our group homes, in our foster homes, really help with our kids' experience.
I can see that. I mean, Dan, I've had a lot of people on this show before, and I mean, pretty much everybody's been an advocate. But nobody's given 32 years of their own time and money to helping raise kids. I mean, you know, and I'm sure kid like Alex would, he appreciates it, you know, even though it's not him. He sees what you're doing, and it's something. It's a benefit not only to them, but just a community in general. Because what you're doing is you're enabling citizens. That's what you're doing. You're creating brand new citizens who are healthy, wealthy, and wise, are looking to enter this workforce, hit the ground running, and contribute to society. We're talking about Plummer Home right now. You guys are located in Salem. Right now you are working to recruit foster parents in the city of Lynn. Specifically, it's a great demographic. There are a lot of families here. There are a lot of schools. It's very diverse. It sounds like it'd be a great place for you guys to start. For those of you who are considering becoming a foster parent, it just starts with a call. And I mean, Dan can talk about this, and I'm sure that's how it started with you, Dan. Yeah. 32 years. I mean, you've seen the system from the beginning almost. I mean, not since the beginning. I mean, it was around in the 20s and before then. But I mean, you've seen it, the later end of it all. And I mean, based on what you're saying, it sounds like it was a huge part of your life, and you don't regret a second of it. So reach out to these guys. You have questions, they've got answers. You guys are also have this permanency program, and the goal is to create a long-term relationship among youths and adults, as well as get them into a home that's going to be long-term as well. One interesting thing that I didn't know was, foster care isn't a long-term permanent thing. I mean, this is a short-term thing at times, and what you guys are trying to do is strive to make it more permanent and create a healthier lifestyle, living style, mentors, and relationships among these youths. I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal. Alex, I wish you the best of luck. Dan, keep doing the great job that you're doing.
Thank you, Sean.
And James, keep working hard, man. Keep plugging away. I want to thank you for having you guys on the program. Thanks for coming in. That's it for the LynnCAM TV show from the studio here at LynnCAM TV. I'm Sean Donahue, wishing you all the best. Cool.